got these two friends, and they meet with each other on the street. And while they're sitting on the street, this like group of tourists comes up to them. And one guy's holding a map of New York. And the guy asks one of my friends, hey, do you know how to get to Lincoln Center? And my buddy, without hesitation, says, yeah, shitload of hard work. So I have about 15 years of a shitload of hard work. And so this is a totally new presentation for me. And so this could take 20 minutes, this could take 20 hours. I really hope you're comfortable. So this should be fun. But it's also a little nerve-wracking because I'm doing something that I've never done before, which has actually gone back in time, and I'm going to show you where I started. And I typically, I don't like to look at the past. I always try to stay in the present. And so it's really strange to look back and see all this stuff that's happened over this sort of 15-year career. So I spent the last 4 years coming up with these ideas, and I would give presentations on these ideas. And it was interesting because these presentations have these sort of themes. So 2010, I did the unknown voyage, and a lot of this is touching on stuff that you've heard today about this idea of having the destination but not necessarily knowing where the end point is. And then in 2011, I talked about failure. We all know how important failure is to the process. Last year, I talked about play, this idea of making play work and work play, and that they're very much the same thing. And so this year, I decided I was going to do escaping success. And that's been painful because a lot of people on Twitter said that this was a terrible idea. But stick with me. I promise I sort of know what I'm doing. So my name is Joshua Davis. Twitter, I'm on it. Currently, I'm a creative director at a studio down in Soho. We're in the old Interview magazine building. And I'm working at a place called Code and Theory, and I'm working on physical spaces, physical installations, and I'll talk a little bit about that stuff a little bit later. So this idea is, like, what are the pitfalls of success? The horrors of easy, the sluggishness of comfortable, how to remain teachable and take pride in the fear of the unknown. And this idea of escaping success or reinventing myself or constantly embracing treacherous change, I actually remain in a state of wonder. So I'm constantly trying to be the student. I'm constantly trying to say, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. And then everyone claps. And everyone's like, dude, you should come to London. And I go to London and I'm like, dude, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. And everyone claps. And I really don't know what I'm doing. But fuck, you did it. It's like... So I want to tell you where it all starts. I grew up in the mountains of Colorado. I was 9 years old. It was in the third grade. The location was the playground, and you can see there's a lot of stuff on the playground. There's a jump rope. There's a football. There's a European football. There's a hula hoop. And of course, I'm the guy that grabs the stick. So I've got this stick, and what I would do is I would go onto the playground, I would push all the rocks aside, and I would dig shapes into the ground. And kids would come up to me and go, what the fuck are you doing? And I would say, you're not going to believe this, but I found dinosaur bones under the playground, and I'm excavating them. 6 inches under the gravel, dinosaur bones. This is huge. I thought this was awesome. The nuns were going to be totally stoked. But instead what happened is they called my parents and they said, your son, he's weird. What can we tell you? But what they did is they said, he's got this knack for creating, and you should really nurture that. And my mom was a secretary, and my dad literally was an aerospace engineer. He worked for Martin Marietta and worked with NASA on a bunch of projects. Art was not in the DNA. So they actually took the advice of these nuns and went out and bought me an oil painting set. It was 9! No, I'll be over here working with the turpentine. So the art thing really worked out. I spent, my whole young life making art, and actually took second place in the state of Colorado for painting, and actually moved to New York in '92, went to Pratt to actually study painting. And it was the early '90s, and I just thought I didn't know why I was doing this, I was studying Vasari, and I was studying all these Dutch masters, and I was making this stuff, and I wondered, why was I doing this? Because it had already been done. It had already been done in the 15th century. It was '92. Why was I doing this? And so I tried to figure out ways that I could experiment with the tools that I was using. So I started making these paintings, and I started trying things. Like, I would roll them up and put them in the freezer in my kitchen. Let me just tell you that it just gets cold. These I ended up baking in the oven, and the paint would crack. And I just thought, oh, okay, I'm really fascinated about this surprise, about this accidental creation of artwork. But then I got depressed again, because now I was making work look like it was made in the 15th century. So I sort of shot myself in the foot there. So I walk away from painting around '94, and I start playing with computers. And I start using the computer as a tool to actually make artwork. And I had no idea what I was doing. But I liked video games, and so I ended up buying PlayStation.com. And it was 1998. I could have had like Coke.com, and I was like, woo, I got PlayStation! I was high-fiving everybody. I could have been so rich on buying domains, but I was like, dude, I got it! I'm like screaming out the window. But what happened was I was doing mashup. I was taking things that were popular, and I was mashing them up, but it didn't feel me. And so I really struggled with this issue. And so I came to the conclusion that this is the great secret. And the great secret is the type of work you make is the type of work you get hired to do. So it should be a great idea for me to love the shit that I'm making. So this upset me because I didn't know if I liked making this. It was fun, but I don't know what it really said about me. So I knew that while this was popular and people thought it was funny, I had to walk away from it. And I did. And I started over. And I got really minimal, and I went through this journey to try to figure out what was my aesthetic? What were the colors that I liked? What were the forms that I liked? And I spent years trying to master this craft. And so moving to 2000, and again, I was really getting experimental and trying things with code and trying things with computer that would spark my imagination. And this would continue through 2001. Again, just years of searching for this voice. Because I had something to say, but I wasn't sure what my voice was. So 2002, again, I'm still continuing with this research. Now this is funny. In 2002, I start this other project called Once Upon a Forest, and I hated this project. And I hated it because I was learning. And as I was learning, every time I looked at the piece, I could see the evolution of my learning. So every time I looked at it, I was like, oh, fuck, I really should take that piece down, because I didn't know what I was doing then. And I could actually see the growth. And that was painful. It was painful to see the things that I probably would have done differently. And so you can see, I'm like, fuck flowers. And then all the rest becomes this abstract. There's a clear divide of where this previous work upset me. And I, again, tried to make a departure from it. So from 2003 and 2006, I was nailing it. I was comfortable. I was figuring out how to master this craft. Now, I use programming. I actually program these compositions that you see. So I actually didn't design this. I actually wrote a program that designed it. And so what would happen is I would set up the colors that it could use, the artwork that it could use, and some basic rules on how composition would get generated. And these would be moments in time that I would capture. And I would run the program again, and I would get these other sort of accidental moments. And again, from 2003 to 2006, I was loving it, really, really loving it, what was happening. I knew what my voice was, and you're going to see here that it terrifies me, because this happens. In 2005, I get invited to speak at TED. Now, I had to take this picture so that you could see my name, so that you actually knew that I went, because let me just say that if you get invited to TED and you say fuck every 5 minutes, your video's probably not going to hit online. So, tone it down. Tone it down. Just saying. Really fucked that up. So 2005, I get invited to TED, and the group that I was in, it was called Organic, and I was talking about writing these organic programs that would make art, and it was an amazing experience. And then from that, in 2006, another bad thing happened, which was I got inducted into the Cooper Hewitt's National Design Triennial. So I'm in the Smithsonian, I'm not dead, my mom loves that. Super cool. But the reason why I'm terrified of this stuff is because it's like you did it. Good job. Now you can go away now. And this terrified me, this idea of like, oh my God, I've done it. You know, what do I do now? And so there becomes this time between 2006 and 2011 where I feel like I'm repeating myself. And just years went by, and for me, like when you look at this, you see something different, I see the same exact poster. Like even though there are 4 different posters, for me it's like I keep seeing the same exact poster because I knew how to make it. I knew how to do it. I knew how to write the program. I knew what to expect. And that wonder of being amazed by the unknown had left me. And I spent years just regurgitating. And not that I want to point fingers at the industry, but the industry is almost the worst in this situation, where the industry wants to replicate rather than innovate. Their only frame of reference is stuff that you've already done, not necessarily where you're going. And so I felt like my personal growth was stagnating because I was being asked to do things that I had already previously executed and not necessarily where I wanted to be going. So I was trying things. I was trying to split things up. I was trying to make things more. I was desperate to try to figure out where was I going to go next. I had reached this sort of apex, and I felt like I was trapped. I was like, oh, maybe I'll get away from doing stuff that's organic, and I'll start doing grids. And I was trying to do this experimentation. 2008 rolls around. I'm still trying some other things, but I still feel like I'm doing the same exact thing. Now, 2008, I'm like, okay, cool. I'm going to do this architecture thing, and I put these pieces out, and I'm like, yes, this is great. Maybe I want to follow this thread. And then a client is like, you're really good at flowers. You should keep doing that. And I'm like, fuck! So I find that my growth is slowing, that my exploration is slowing. And in 2009, I only make 3 personal projects. So while in the beginning I was like explosive, like trying all this stuff, in 2009, I only do 3 personal things. 2010 rolls around, I do 1 personal project. So I'd gone from 3 to 1. And I thought, well, okay, I've got to give myself like ridiculous conditions. Like, Josh, you've got a little grid, and that grid has certain dimensions to it, and how many different things can you build that adhere to that grid? This is where I'm at. Like trying to give myself these projects, much like I did in college. And I was trying things like putting them in new programs and trying to figure out this new, like what was the next evolution of this visual language that I was searching for. So I start using these programs to generate patterns in these drawings that I was going to make. But again, I feel like I'm still doing the same thing. And I don't know how I feel about these. If you own a mosque, call me. We got this. I'm just saying. Just putting that out there. I gave a talk in Turkey, and I said that, and everyone was like, yes, well. Shit. So then I thought I needed to escape my tools. So I started doing things where I was actually silk screening. So getting away from the digital process and trying to silk screen these things that I was generating. I even had this great idea that I would make skateboards by hand. I've got 2 out of the 5 done. Don't do this. Don't do this. It's painful. So let's talk about commercial projects, because I think this made it even worse. So in 2011, I get tapped to do this project called Watson, and maybe some of you know it. It's a computer that played Jeopardy, and I was tasked with designing the avatar that actually people saw on television. And I had a great team of Ogilvy here in New York and a collaborator in DC, Brandon Hall, and it was great. The things that we programmed was amazing. And again, it took me a year to work on this thing, and after it was done, again, there was just that feeling of like, I'd done it, that I had reached this goal, and I was unsatisfied by where my personal work was developing. And at this time, in 2011, I only do one personal project. And this one personal project felt very similar to the thing that I did in 2010. So again, I'm unhappy with where am I going? So I decided I was going to make drastic change and switch languages. So I moved from one programming language to another, thinking that would help me, that putting me in a new language would solve these problems. And it was interesting because if me and Stefan ever start a band, this is our album cover. It was interesting because at this time I was having lunch with Stefan, and he was telling me about doing the Happy film with Hillman Curtis, and he was talking about trying to face fear, like there's the thing where he gives out roses and to just random women in Washington Square Park or somewhere, Union Square Park. And so he was trying to confront fear, and I was trying to get into it. We were sort of doing the opposite. He was trying to overcome his fears, and I was trying to find fear, because I felt in fear is where my greatest thinking actually occurs. So this new language presented new ways of producing things, and that was exciting. This is a total failure. It just blew up, and I just liked the blow up. And so then I started doing these really uncomfortable exercises where I would go onto SoundCloud and listen to people's music, and I found this guy Bones, and so I would listen to his music, and then I designed his logo and his packaging, and then I just emailed the dude, and I was like, here's your logo, please don't use blue, this is your next album cover. And he's like, dude, I'm 15, but I won't use blue. Like I was trying these things to get into fear, to get into being uncomfortable. That says 30 seconds, and fuck that. That is not happening. No way. No way, it's a lie. It's like $1 a minute. I'll pay you after the show's over. So again, I'm trying things, 2012. And again, I land this really great client. So I land Joel, and Joel really, I think, helped me get out of this rut that I was in the sense that he was paying me to play. He was paying me to do the uncomfortable. He was challenging me. He was giving me these things that I wasn't even sure I could pull off, doing concert posters and other stuff like that. He tapped me with designing his headphones, which you might have seen in the Apple store. I'm everywhere. I'm kind of a big deal. Totally full of shit, but let's go. This guy wore them at the Olympics. I think he swims. Here's what they look like. But here's what he did, is he tasked me with creating these little animations for these LED heads. And I had spent so much time doing static composition that I was really uncomfortable working with animation. And so this sparked this new way of thinking about how I was going to tackle things. And he could trigger these animations across his head while he was playing on stage. So what happened is 2013 ran around, and this slide is black because I didn't know what I was going to do. You know, I would wake up at like 2 in the afternoon. I'd play like Borderlands, stay up until 4. And I realized that I needed to make like a huge drastic change. And so it made me think about success. And it made me think about that it was something that I had defined for myself. And that I had these goals and actually achieved them. And the byproduct of that was I got lazy. I got comfortable. And I actually produced less. And so Churchill, success is the ability to go from failure to failure without losing your enthusiasm. And I had lost my enthusiasm. Success is not final. Failure is not fatal. It's the courage to continue that counts. And I realized that I really needed to change. And so I had breakfast with Belsky. And I ended up leaving 10 years of being solo and getting back into studio life. And now I have like 100 people that I collaborate with. And I get up at 7 in the morning on the train with guys in suits. And every day I fantasize what they think that I do for a living. He's a tattoo artist. No, he works on motorcycles. Yeah, that guy thinks I work on motorcycles. I don't know. And so anyway, we just launched this new project. It's called the Hype Framework, and it's in this new programming language that I've taken on. And I joked with my coworkers that the presentation was actually going to get shittier as it progressed, because I was back to being a student. I was back to trying things. I was back to that enthusiasm of, I don't know what I'm doing, and the wonder that comes with that. And these are just ideas. They're ideas for doing things with no real destination in mind. And we're doing things like working with hardware, like this new thing called the Leap Motion, which is amazing. Doing stuff with touchscreen, doing stuff with the Connect. And all of this is just this new experimentation, this new chapter in this new voice that I'm discovering that I had all the time. I just had to go looking for it. And some of the stuff that's coming out is super beautiful. And again, some more examples of this play. These are crazy. So I thought I would end with this because it's the Connect. And this idea of the hardware making new things possible is astounding. And what's amazing is that I'm at this point now where this radical change that I've embarked in has produced more ideas and more possibilities in the past 4 months than the past 2 years. So please check out this project. It's some really, really fun modules that we're working on. And that's what these are. These are modules and utilities for creating what could be the genesis for connecting people with brands and people and experiences. It's hypeframework.org. It's a project with me and James Cruz over at Code and Theory. And again, we're building these things in physical spaces to do things that could never have been done before. So this is what I leave with you with. Never let your success get in the way of your creativity. And when I showed this slide online, I took some heat. Somebody said, yeah, that's fine, but what if you have to pay the bills? And I thought that was a totally separate discussion. That creativity doesn't care whether success exists or not. But success will totally fuck up creativity's game. And I have to remind myself that. So my hope is that everyone would find wonder in the personal journeys that we take to find your voice. and be wary of the trappings that come with succeeding. Thanks.